Okay, so we can finally continue after me being sick for so long. I think it should be this. Poor Christian is not here today. We crossed the hall again on our way to the entrance. As we did, we once again spotted that witch's portrait. Moment, was war jetzt los? Ah, we're going to the beach, right? I think last time we had this very tense conversation between the adults, but now we switched back to Bettlerkun, and we're gonna have a beach episode or something like that. Who knows? However, spotted is probably not the best word to describe that experience. It was more like our eyes were inexorably drawn to it. That woman's eyes, with their sage-like glamour, definitely had the power to make those who viewed it stand rooted to the spot. So this is the witch, Beatrice. Wonder if that story is true. Bettler doesn't believe. Back when he had asked what this picture was, the first person to tell him had been Maria. Therefore, when Bettler showed signs of doubt, Maria must have felt that Bettler didn't have faith in her. Of course, that wasn't what Bettler meant. Maria ran up to the portrait and began banging on a plate hanging below it. Maybe the title of the portrait was written there. Maria, trying to prove that she wasn't lying, obstinately continued to hit the plate. Sorry about that. It's not like I doubt anything you said, Maria. Bettler believes. When he patted Maria's head and apologized, she seemed to accept it, sticking out her chest and proudly ooh-ooing. I feel like I forgot something. I'm recording, right? Yes, I am recording, okay. What's this? My beloved witch Beatrice. Behold the sweet fish river. Huh? What's with this weird, huge epitaph? The plate did have the title of the portrait written on it, but it was much too big to contain only that. Beneath the title was what appeared to be a long epitaph. If you just skimmed over it, several unnerving words would jump out at you. Incredible, isn't it? Grandfather had that made. Pretty deep, huh? What does it say? Oh, I know. It's the place where the gold's hidden. Wait, is it that story about the Oshiromiya family's hidden gold? No, that's another thing I remember from long ago. Hold on, Aniki, is this for real? Grandfather had this made, but he never said anything about this picture or the epitaph. Even so, amongst the family it is often whispered that it indicates the location of grandfather's hidden gold, and that he will relinquish the inheritance and the gold to the person who solves the riddle. I heard that too. Lots and lots of gold. Yeah, I'm sure he's gonna give nothing to anybody. Well, something like that. Something like 10 metric tons of gold bars. I think it's fake though. Still, when you read about it in an epitaph like this, it almost seems real. I think I already explained grandfather's upbringing, but let me also mention the Oshiromiya family's legend of the gold. Grandfather succeeded the Oshiromiya family after it was destroyed in the Great Kando earthquake, and by successfully riding the stormy seas after the war, he managed to accumulate great wealth. By the way, it's really great to be able to read again without having to cough all the time. Still have to cough a bit though. That much of the story everyone knows. However, this is where the strange part begins. Part of it involves grandfather's black magic obsession, so its credibility is extremely low, but, well, wait until the end before you doubt or make fun of it. After the war, grandfather correctly predicted what the future would hold and won in a huge gamble, accumulating a vast store of wealth. Coughing status reduced to 3%. Yeah, I would love it to be reduced to 0, but we'll see what next week will do. But there's a mysterious legend about how he gained his initial funding. Grandfather came from a brand family and had no connections in the business world or the financial world. Even though he later built connections with the occupying forces, he supposedly started as a nameless person who hadn't yet gained anyone's trust. It takes trust to get that money. There's no way anyone would lend money to someone they didn't trust. How did grandfather, who had no reputation at all, manage to obtain his first vast chunk of funds? When asked that question, grandfather supposedly answered like this. On a certain day, I encountered the golden witch Beatrice. Grandfather then went on and on about his continuing research into alchemy and techniques for summoning demons in order to become a great magician. Yeah, just usual stuff, what everybody usually does. And the entity summoned as the result of the demon calling ceremony was the Golden Witch Beatrice. He then apparently made a contract by which he would receive fortune and honor in exchange for his own soul. The witch then granted Grandfather 10 tons of gold. Grandfather used this gold as collateral to prepare a vast quantity of funds, which he then used to multiply his wealth many times over and revive the Yoshiromiya family. It seems this story is so old that even our parents were told it when they were still children. So back when our parents were young, they explored this island in all sorts of ways, believing that the gold Grandfather had received from the witch might be hidden somewhere. However, since there was the danger of them getting lost in the abandoned forest, Grandmother began to spread the story that the witch lived in the forest and approaching it was forbidden. I remember that old story. When we were little, we also went all over the island searching for treasure after our parents told us about it. Didn't we get lost in the forest once, then start crying until some of the servants found us? Our parents got so mad. Dang, that takes me back. We sure were idiots, weren't we? After all, Grandfather only bought this island after using the funds, those funds to get rich, right? That means he must have had the gold before coming here. There's no way the gold is on this island. That's not necessarily so. Maybe the gold was hidden on the island from the beginning and he bought the whole island just to ensure that it'd be his and his alone. Hi Patrick. Es ging bisher nur um eine Legende, dass hier irgendwo Geld versteckt ist. Dass der Großvater sich von der Beatrix direkt geholt hat. There was a whole 10 metric tons of it, right? It seems more realistic that he tried to secure the place where it was hidden rather than try to move it at all. This epitaph was made 2 years ago, and since Grandfather wrote it himself, yeah... Wer sagt denn das jetzt? It does make the legend of the gold seem more believable. The so-called witch's gold that revived the Yoshiromiya family weighed 10 tons. Maybe that's sleeping somewhere, ready to be turned over to whoever can solve Grandfather's riddle. Maybe that's why he did it. Oh, I guess that sounds like Grandfather's style or something. Yeah, okay, I guess this was bad luck, hun. If it's true, that's pretty incredible. The epitaph carved into the plate was very mysterious, with something like a poem or a song written on it. Let's hear it then. The text was incredibly disturbing, filled with the signs of Grandfather's black magic hobby, and its contents were in truly bad taste. But it could definitely be viewed as a puzzle, which, if solved, might lead to the hidden gold. Whether that's what he intended or not, I can't even imagine what his true motive might have been. All we know for sure is that Grandfather put the shady epitaph here so that everyone in the family could see it. We also know that he's hinted at the existence of the gold without ever talking about where it might be hidden, at least so far. These facts then were embellished by the imaginations of our parents, who were convinced that Grandfather was challenging us to a battle of wits. Sounds just like my dad, so greedy that he'd take something like this so seriously. He may laugh at Grandfather's black magic obsession, but he'd still believe this story about the hidden gold. It just sounds so good. Well, it's certainly not a realistic story. At that time, when Grandfather was still nameless and had no connections, there was no way anyone would just lend him a massive quantity of gold bars for free. If such a person actually did exist, it's not unthinkable that Grandfather would call such a sponsor a witch. Yeah, but it's 10 tons. 10 tons? If you cashed that in, how much would it come to? I mean, it'd have to be a ridiculous amount, right? It certainly would be a ridiculous amount, yes. They say that the total amount of gold mined by humankind since the dawn of history is 100,000 metric tons at the most. That 1/10,000th of all of the gold humankind has obtained throughout history should belong to just one person is just insane. On top of that, this witch supposedly had all that gold collected in one place and was able to lend it to Grandfather just like that. We're not talking about any ordinary person. Well, to me that 10 tons number seems pretty fishy. After all, no one's actually seen it except Grandfather, right? Even if we assume that some generous witch existed and lent him some gold, maybe it was closer to 10 kilograms than 10 tons. Even 10 kilograms would be a pretty incredible sum, right?
10 kilograms of gold is how much?
Maria, who wasn't following the story and felt like she was being spoken to in riddles, finally found a place where she could ask a question. It was a question I also wanted answered right then. Whether it was 10 kilograms or 10 tons, it still felt like a huge amount, but I had no idea exactly how huge. George Aniki folded his arms and tried to remember the market price of gold. Well, even the value of gold is affected by the market, and the value of physical gold can change depending on its purity and the trustworthiness of the foundry. You'd also need to pay handling fees to cash it in. However, that doesn't change the fact that it's a precious metal, and some people estimate that humanity will mine all the world's gold within half a century if gold mining continues at its current rate. Just guessing haphazardly, I think you could expect a price of about 2 million yen per kilogram.
Whoa! Just now I randomly said 10 kilograms since it sounded smaller, but even that would be worth 20 million yen, wouldn't it? I weigh 28 kilograms.
Which means that if we had Maria-chan's weight in gold, we could estimate it's worth at over 50 million yen. That's just unbelievable. How much would 10 tons be then? 10 kilograms is 20 million yen, which you multiply by 1,000, so 20 billion yen? What the hell? How much is 20 billion yen actually worth? We can only measure it relative to our own pocketbooks. Anyway, let's say that a person's wages over a lifetime are about 200 million yen. You grow up and work like crazy, sacrificing your life for your company, and you're finally freed as you approach old age. Everything, including retirement money, might add up to about 200 million yen. In other words, that's the amount of money that'll be made throughout a human's life. You could even call it the value of a life. So 100 times that sum is an unbelievable amount of money. If you work from age 20 to age 60, that's 40 years of work. So it's equal to 4,000 years of work wages. If you worked every day starting from the Jomon period, it's a period in Japanese history, you'd only reach that number about now.
Is 20 billion yen a lot?
Heck yeah, it's a lot. Maria, you love shortcake, right? You could buy more shortcake than you could possibly eat for the rest of your life. However, while it might be possible with 20 billion yen in cash, I don't think it would be very realistic to have that much in gold bars all in one place. Just as I said, gold is extremely heavy, so it isn't exactly convenient as a method of storing wealth. Sure, you could imagine someone gathering their fortune together as incredibly high-value stocks of precious gems. You often hear of people who traded their wealth for precious gems so that they could carry it around with them during the chaotic times of the war. 167 million euro. Oh, I would like to have that. But you don't usually hear stories of people exchanging their wealth for gold.
It may be heavy, but it's the most trusted and stable form of wealth internationally, so maybe that was important.
For example, bonds are just scraps of paper if the whole country goes under. Well, you can also look at it that way, but even one 10-kilogram ingot is pretty heavy to carry around, haven't you heard? A 50-kilogram person can't carry a 50-kilogram bag over their shoulders. With that many gold bars, the amount of labor and risk for one person would be hard to calculate. So what you're saying is, while it'll be one thing if you had a stack of banknotes worth 20 billion yen, 20 billion yen in gold would be such a big mountain that practically it'd be kinda pointless. That's right. Although the legend of the gold does have a pretty interesting ring to it, just the part about the 10 tons of gold makes it pretty much impossible.
If you think about it logically like that, it sounds obviously fake. Kinda brings it back down to reality.
Anyway, that's grandfather for you. Maybe he exaggerated the story of how some kind, wealthy person gave him a loan by saying he got 10 tons of gold from a witch. Even the number 10 tons feels pretty symbolic. You mean like his gratitude for the money he borrowed was worth 10 tons of gold or something?
Maybe some rich man's leisured wife generously granted it to grandfather, and maybe he started calling this person a witch.
I see, Jessica's example isn't bad. Someone who would generously lend a huge sum of money to grandfather when he still had no reputation might as well be called a witch. Furthermore, grandfather actually did use that money to build a vast amount of wealth later on. The fact that this person was so great at judging people might also justify calling her a witch. Also, since she went to the trouble of lending all that money, she might have enthusiastically overseen how it was spent. The decision to unexpectedly get involved with the occupying forces and profit from the Korean War demands might have been inspired by the witch herself. That might explain why he claimed to have received both wealth and honor from her. I see. So, in other words, this witch lent grandfather the funds necessary to revive the Ushiromiya family, and he owed her big time. And then he felt so grateful that he had that huge painting drawn and displayed. It's not that crazy a story.
It's even possible this person was an old granny who looked like a witch. Maybe grandfather idolized her, and that's why he had her drawn to look so beautiful. I'll bet if we ever did meet this person, she wouldn't be nearly this pretty.
Oh, don't wish for it. I feel like it will happen sooner or later, and you might not like it.
Oh, that's possible. The name Beatrice sounds pretty Western, and if you think about how everyone in our family has Western names, maybe even the name Beatrice is the result of grandfather trying to rearrange some Japanese person's name to make it sound Western.
I get it. That means this pretty girl doesn't exist outside the picture. Wer sagt denn das jetzt?
Because that means I won't be able to rub those elegant breasts.
Oh, fucking battler, shut up. In the first place, isn't having a witch pretty bizarre by itself? Like, you could find something like that anywhere on Earth. Oh, ich glaube, das war sarkastisch gesagt. Like you could find something like that anywhere on Earth. I laughed and made fun of the witch, trying to distinguish myself from the kid I was 6 years ago who feared the witch of the forest when Maria tugged on my sleeve. I could tell by how hard she pulled that she was a bit upset. Huh? What is it, Maria? Oh, das wollte ich nicht. Ich wollte das machen. What is it, Maria?
Beatrice exists. I've seen her myself. Every night she comes to my place and...
Anyway, Maria stared up at me. She had on her usual sour look, but I could tell she was angry by the color of her eyes.
Witches exist. Witches exist.
Well, sure they do exist if you turn the TV on and watch anime or something.
Exist. Witches exist.
I started getting impatient, not knowing why Maria was jumping on me like this. Then Jessica tapped me on the shoulder and whispered,
"Dumbass, you're smashing your kid's dream. Maria really believes things like witches and Beatrice exist."
Come to think of it, Maria-chan, in social studies at your school, when you were asked to write what you wanted to be when you grew up, you wrote a witch, didn't you? I'm sure that went down well with the teacher. Maria nodded seriously. Tears started to run from the corners of her eyes. Oh no. I see, to a girl who wants to become a witch in the future, the existence of Beatrice was proof that witches do exist in this world, and was therefore an image that she yearned after and admired.
Exist! Witches exist! But Peddler still doesn't believe.
It's okay, witches do exist. I believe it. George Aniki kneeled down and hugged Maria's head. Watching this, Jessica poked my side. So that's what it is. It's like shouting that Santa Claus doesn't exist in front of a child who believes in him on a Christmas Eve. I'm not the kind of guy who likes to shatter kids' dreams. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to make fun of your dreams, so I apologize. Beatrice does exist. Even now, she's living in the forest and comes to the mansion every night to peek in and see what everyone's doing. Don't say that. She might. So you shouldn't go into the forest. At night, you mustn't stare into the dark forest. You might be seen by the witch of the forest, Beatrice. After all, grandmother said so.
Really? Peddler really believes?
Yep, I believe. Sorry for doubting it. Come on, let's make up. I stuck out my hand. Maria grabbed it with her tiny hand, and we made up. Maria didn't grumble any more than that, so George, Aniki, and Jessica were relieved. Oh, hi.
So this is where all of you were. I was sure you had just left to go to the beach.
Yeah, we kinda got stopped by the portrait. Shannon-chan, carrying a basket, was surprised to find us all gathered in front of the portrait.
Oh, Shannon. Well, this is the first time Battler has seen Beatrice's portrait. He was just fascinated by it. That's right, it certainly is fascinating. Beatrice Summer is truly beautiful. I'm sure that she captivated the master.
Yeah, captivated doesn't even begin to describe it.
In addition to the patron theory, there's also a theory that she was grandfather's first love. Either way, although it's been several decades since he met her, even now she holds a special place in his heart, which must mean that he's still captivated by her.
Sheesh, that must have made grandmother pretty jealous, huh?
I'm not really sure, but that might actually be true. Apparently grandmother believed he was cheating on her with some blonde.
And then he hangs a picture of a blonde in the, in the hall. Yeah. real tactful, I gotta say.
Good smell, coming from Shannon.
Maria, sniffing, approached the basket Shannon was holding with interest. After hearing that, I noticed a fragrant scent with a touch of vanilla.
I apologize. I was told by Kumasawa-san to bring them to everyone.
What is it, I wonder?
Oh, excellent. Cookies. Wanna eat cookies. Please eat as much as you would like. But,
Would it be appropriate to serve cookies in a place like this, in front of the creepy portrait?
Shannon-chan sent us a glance that seemed to ask what we wanted to do about it.
Well, yeah, I guess eating here would be bad manners, generally speaking.
Maria, why don't we eat someplace else? Let's put the cookies in the bento and have a picnic. Have a picnic. If we can eat cookies, let's go.
Yeah, let's go get some fresh air. We shouldn't stuff ourselves right in front of the witch.
That's right, didn't we say that we wanted to go down to the beach in the first place? Let's go.
Shannon-chan, sorry, but could I ask you to get us a blanket to sit on and some flasks of tea?
Right, certainly.
Shannon-chan received her instructions and gracefully bowed, haha, ich hab's richtig gesagt, before retracing her steps. We headed for the beach on our own. Everyone headed for the entrance in a group. Feeling as though that witch was staring down at our backs, I turned around once more.
Battler, you still don't believe?
No, I believe. It'd be so much cooler that way. The golden witch Beatrice gave grandfather 10 tons of gold, and that gold might be sleeping around here somewhere. Besides, didn't grandfather write that strange epitaph as though challenging us to find it if we can? I'd say that kind of adventurous story is way better.
20 billion yen worth of gold, huh? Even if we split it up between the four of us, it's still a ridiculous amount of money.
5 billion yen for each of us. Incredible. With that kind of money, you could probably make any sort of business prosper. In fact, we could live our whole lives fabulously without working at all.
I don't want 5 billion yen. I want cookies.
Maria would take cookies over money. Still, 5 billion yen, that's like a dream. Uh-oh. Now what? Wer sagt das? Ridiculous. Is it possible that you all truly believe in Father's legend of the gold? Of course we don't believe that story about a witch giving him gold, but there's no mistake about the gold itself.
The fact that Father obtained gold bars from an unknown source has been confirmed in several ways. We've heard that, before the president of the Maruso company died, Father showed him a large pile of gold somewhere.
Cookies above money, yeah. Cookies, oh yeah. Although with money you could buy cookies.
Father used that man's claim as proof that there were 10 tons of worth.
That's just the nonsense of a senile old man. Along with Father, he was just fabricating a story. You can't take it seriously. If that gold didn't exist, he wouldn't have been able to gather so much funding. Before the president died, he was a person with such a sincere personality that he earned the respect of many in the business world. Respect. He wouldn't have become a partner in such fraud. Aniki, the president of Maruso definitely saw it. 10 tons of it, clearly, with his own eyes. Even more, Dad let the president take one ingot at random and have it examined. The result of the examination showed that the 10-kilogram ingot was 99.99% pure.
He said that the Ushiro family crest, the one-winged eagle, not one-winged angel, that's something else, was imprinted on it. Almost instantly, the Ushiro legend of the gold spread amongst the fixers of the business world. Gold from an unknown foundry has a poor rate of conversion into money. Thinking that it was a chance for decisive profits, they accepted it as collateral. Ushiro. And as a result, father was able to receive massive loans.
Is there no limit to the absurdity you're willing to accept? How old are you people? Are you still taking that nursery tale you heard as children seriously? Where's the proof that the 10 tons of gold even exists? Aren't you just parroting the lies of father and few of those close to him?
Of course it's just a story, but still, Aniki, the amount of money Dad raised required a suitable amount of collateral. Also, can you please turn down the creepy music, Aniki? I know you like to listen to that stuff, but come on. Well, even if the gold itself was just a rumor, it's an undoubtable fact that he showed them a treasure of comparable worth.
It was just an illusion of money created by your penniless father. Our penniless father. He acted as though he actually had gold that didn't exist, fooling his sponsors. It was probably the gamble of a lifetime. Luckily, his use of those funds proved successful. If the Korean War demands hadn't come and the Ushiro family had not been restored, father would probably have been hounded after as the crook of the century.
So, are you saying that the gold never existed and father made it all up?
Of course. And because of that, the illusion of gold became a mere inconvenience once he achieved enough success. That's why later on, father added all that about a witch and black magic, weakening the credibility of the entire story. In other words, he revealed that the illusion of the gold was a fabrication. If he claimed to have received the gold from a witch, no one would believe that it existed at all, right? It's also possible he said it for all your sakes. Nevertheless, here comes some stupid offspring wanting to divide up this non-existent gold along with the rest of the inheritance. Rosa, don't tell me that even you believe in a fabrication like this.
I can't prove whether or not father really had the gold. I just want to claim my rightful share as one of father's 4 children.
Oh, it seems even you have started to talk that way, Rosa. I see. So that's what you're all getting at. You're trying to claim that I'm attempting to keep all the gold for myself.
Nissan, you've gathered a massive supply of funds. That's a fact. If we rule out the possibility that you have been embezzling father's personal funds, then there is only one possibility left, right? Aniki, we've been thinking that you might have found those 10 tons of gold bars.
Ridiculous. Such a thing never existed in the first place.
Then explain yourself. Was it embezzlement of father's assets or father's hidden gold? How could you have gathered so much funding if not by one of these methods?
Even if I have many friends in the political and financial realms, even I have many friends in the political and financial realms. I've earned their cooperation, nothing more. And on that matter, I have no responsibility to explain myself for you. You understand, don't you? There are some topics that ought not be spoken of.
If you insist on that point, that's all well and good for now, but Aniki, Dad doesn't have long. Nobody can ensure that he'll live to see this day next year. The inheritance process will begin at the instant of Dad's death. We'll arrange for lawyers and accountants who are impartial to all of us and have them inspect Dad's financial situation. At that time, if it comes to light that you have unjustly interfered with father's money, well, you understand, right?
I don't have a clue what you're talking about. You're starting to make me feel as indignant as my wife was.
Of course, father's gold is part of father's fortune. We understand it's money you can't reveal openly, but the 4 siblings should have an equal right to it. In other words, we're gonna have your financial situation investigated as well as Dad's to determine whether you're hoarding the gold or not. Isn't this a great opportunity? Right now, prove the existence of your so-called support from friends and acquaintances. That way, we can sportingly apologize for foolishly doubting you. Right, Rosa? That's right. Klaus Nissan, you are the one who's dodging the issue. If you were guiltless, you could just prove that you were in the right. But you aren't even trying to do so.
Wer sagt das jetzt?
Vielleicht der Vater von Dingsbums. Wie heißt er nochmal? Moment.
Rudolf. Okay, also Klaus, Natsuhi, Jessica, Eva, Hideyoshi, George, Rudolf, Kiria, Battler. Fucking Battler, man. Rosa, Maria, Canon, Shannon, Genji, Goda, fucking dick, Kumasawa, Nanjo, and Kinzo, the madman. Okay, I think it is Rudolph. However, Aniki, we still have to consider your position here. As Dad's representative, you're probably bearing a larger share of the burden than we are. We've been living terribly relaxed lives until now, so it wouldn't be fair for the rest of us to complain without taking your efforts into account.
Seems you cannot make up your mind whether to flatter me or slander me. Please get to the point.
Basically, randomly investigating nitpicky aspects of Father's wealth seems like a pretty cute way to go about it. As you said, Klaus Nissan, there may have been movements of money that are difficult to explain. We've come to consult with you today while fully aware of the point. Both sides stand to gain from talking about this now.
Consultation.
When the inheritance is divided, you'll be rewarded for your years of hard work, taking care of Dad by an agreement that's generous in your favor.
Don't misunderstand us, Nissan. We aren't saying that we'll abandon our rights, but when we make our claim for what we deserve, we might as well offer a generous understanding for your position. That's what we mean.
In other words, if you accept our conditions, then when the inheritance is divided, we'll leave the investigation of Father's financial situation to you, Klaus Nissan.
All of the siblings from Eva downwards suspected that Klaus was trying to steal their father's wealth. So letting Klaus report the state of that wealth was extremely contradictory and a huge concession. If, as they claimed, Klaus was actually embezzling money, Klaus would be able to hide that fact. Besides which, it would be possible for him to control the distribution of the inheritance in a manner favorable to himself. Klaus, realizing that this sounded too good to be true, couldn't help but feel suspicious. He couldn't help but worry about what they'd ask for in exchange.
After mistrusting me completely, you now say that you're willing to restore your confidence in me as the elder sibling. So, what is it you want in return?
Just what we deserve as siblings. You aren't the kind of person who'd steal Dad's property, but you also aren't being financed by some patron. Considering all that, there is a certain explanation that'd satisfy the rest of us.
Nissan, you found 10 tons of gold and used that as collateral to gather some funding. Yes, just like Father did in the past, right?
If that's the case, there won't be any funny business in Father's finances. You've always been a good son looking after Father. Why would we mistrust a person like that?
You're being so roundabout I can barely understand you. Please speak in clearer and more practical terms.
Our first condition, Aniki, you must admit that you found Dad's gold.
Are you asking me to admit I possess gold that doesn't exist? Our second condition. You will acknowledge that each sibling has a right to a share of the gold, and you will pay out those shares. How foolish. With that non-existent 20 billion yen of gold, that would be 5 billion yen per person. Are you telling me to pay a total of 15 billion yen? Ridiculous.
Keep listening till the end. We know that much money can't just pop up out of nowhere. We're not asking you to make an impossible deal. Of course, regarding the portions of the gold, we plan to reward you plenty for your hard work until now.
Our third condition, the portion of the gold to the one bearing the title of successor to the Shiromiya head family will be 50%. The remainder will be considered the fair share of the siblings and divided up. Of course, this also includes you, Klaus Nissan.
Of the 20 billion, 12.5 billion will go to Aniki, 2.5 billion will go to Nifa Nissan, 2.5 billion will go to me, and 2.5 will go to Rosa.
That division scheme makes me so grateful I could cry. So you're saying for the sake of the gold that doesn't exist, I must pay you 7.5 billion yen? What's wrong? Nissan, your share is 5 times the size of ours. These are such good terms, I'd be jumping for joy. Huh? Our fourth condition. The gold will be liquidated and distributed along with the inheritance at the time of Father's death. However, as a deposit, 10% of our portions are to be paid to us promptly. These payments must be made before March of next year. What do you think, Klaus Nissan? This is an ideal chance for you to restore the trust regarding your handling of father's assets, isn't it? Of course, it might be impossible to get a whole 7.5 billion before father dies, but it should be possible for you to manage a deposit of 750 million, right? Keine Ahnung, wer das jetzt sagt. Also lese ich es einfach nochmal vor. Paying 700 million in half a year might sound like a pain, but you should be able to manage it. What with all your friends in the political and business spheres. Normally, we'd hope to receive the 7.5 billion right now all at once, but out of concern for you, we'll show our sincerity by asking for only 10% of that for the time being. The remaining 90% can wait until the inheritance is distributed. See? Even you'd be capable of managing a mere 10% to show your sincerity.
So you're trying to sell me the right to ask his father's financial situation for 750 million yen? Huh? How impressive. You all certainly have grown to think that I'm now the one being offered deals.
Nissan, if you accept these terms, the rest of our siblings will leave the investigation of father's assets to you. However, the results of that investigation will be subject to scrutiny. It's only natural, right? We'd be so sad if you managed things so that our 7.5 billion shares shrank.
We'll avoid complaining as a general rule. Just make sure you do it neat and tidy. As long as you don't try anything that's blatantly obvious, we've got no intention of steering things up. We want our inheritance quickly, too. We don't want it to get all drawn out and left hanging. If a complaint is made, who would carry out the follow-up investigation?
We don't mind if it's you. This is probably the first and last chance for us siblings to reach a consensus. I believe it won't come to that. Looks like even you can speak up now and then, Rosa. By this point, it's obvious that Klaus wasn't at all trusted as the oldest sibling, so there's no need to go into detail. The formerly tyrannical oldest brother had always abused his privileges and violated the other siblings' shares. It was in response to this that the other three, now adults, were finally teaming up and striking back for the first time.
Sorry, but there's more. Our fifth condition. This decision must take precedence over father's will. Later on, we don't want some will to appear and make this decision completely irrelevant. I see that you're very cautious. Then let me ask, if the gold really were found, what would you do? Since you'll be making payments to us for what the gold's worth, the rest of us really don't care if we ever see the gold or not. You can think of our share as an advance payment.
It's good to have dreams, isn't it? You plan to turn this island into a resort, right? You might stumble upon the gold by chance during construction.
Eva let out a high-pitched laugh. Klaus watched but didn't even flinch.
Let me add a seventh condition before I accept. In the situation that any sibling other than myself finds the gold, they will immediately turn it over to me.
Yes, of course. We'll hold on to it for you.
It was a play on words. Of course, the others who were forcing Klaus to pay money for some non-existent gold wouldn't save Klaus's portion if they actually found it. From the beginning, this deal had been nothing more than a threat directed at Klaus. Regardless of the actual facts, it was still extremely likely that Klaus was embezzling his father's assets. When Kinzo faced death at last and had his inheritance distributed, some unpleasant facts would surely come to light. That could easily become fatal to Klaus. The others had spotted this weak point and were threatening their brother under the veil of compromise, trying to wring a huge sum of money out of him. However, they had forgotten one thing. They had forgotten that their brother's brain moved so swiftly, at least when it came to cunning and guile, that they had been forced to band together to combat him. While Eva couldn't stop smiling, sure of her victory, Klaus let out a gloating laugh to show how relaxed he was.
This all makes for such a touching story. My estrangement from you all has left a deep pain in my heart. If accepting these conditions means we siblings can become friends again, it will please me to no end. I'd be happy to agree to your deal. Rejoice, Rosa. We have reached an understanding.
Rosa's expression dimmed. It was never a good sign when her brother started talking like this. Eva also keenly picked up on this. That's why she was unable to wipe away a sense of unease, even though Klaus had obediently accepted the deal.
My, how obedient of you. It's not like you at all, Nissan.
What a cruel thing to say. Are you implying I have some ulterior motive? Of course I don't. I'm just the same as all of you.
Just the same as all of you. He seemed to emphasize just that one part. The color of Rudolph's face darkened. To him it sounded as though Klaus was saying, I have a plan similar to yours. So Rudolph panicked. He rushed to bring this nearly resolved discussion to a conclusion.
Then we're good. So, Aniki, would you mind signing here? This is a written contract summarizing the discussion we've just been having. There's one for each of us. Everyone will sign for the same contents.
Rudolph took 4 written contracts out of his breast pocket that had the details of their deal written on them.
The 7th condition you propose will of course be added right now. Don't worry about that. Aniki, need a pen?
Rudolph took a fountain pen out of his breast pocket and offered it to Klaus. Klaus made as if to accept it, but then with a small laugh he drew back his hand without taking it and spoke.